All right, y'all, what's going on? Welcome to the Monday Night Live. Put a one in the chat if y'all can hear me clearly. What's going on, Mama Dude? That's right, the music is a whole vibe tonight. This is going to be a pretty important conversation. It applies to people who are not only 40 years of age or in their 40s, but this also applies to people who are in their 50s and 60s. Okay? Or just anybody over the age of 40, period. 40s, 50s, 60s, I mean, even 70s, right? So we got the ones popping in. There we go. All right. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's going to apply to everyone, right? And I want to start off with a story about what actually happens, right? Because we have to separate physiological age from chronological age, right? Because the two, they can run parallel to each other, but they can also deviate pretty significantly from each other to the point where your physiological age doesn't match your chronological age at all. And interestingly enough, your chronological age can be a lot younger or older than your physiological age, right? So you can be like 36 years old and be physiologically like 50 years old, right? And vice versa. You can be 50 years old and chronologically like 36 years old, right? I'll explain how that is and why, right? And the factors that affect that. Right? So I'm going to be diving pretty deep into this topic tonight. But beforehand, all right, hold on. Let me get my bubbles in play. Boom, there we go. All right. Gotta represent. Let me catch up to y'all in the comments here, and let me hit this go live button. There we go. Boom. Look at this lighting. All right. Got the lighting all the way turned up here. But hold on, let me check. Let me check a couple things. Definitely, folks, like the stream if you like the stream. All right. If y'all know how I get down, you've been tuning in for long enough. You know it's always worth the while. It's always worth the time. Because I drop a lot of important information here. Uh-oh, what's this about? Connect what? All right. Working on some back stuff. Give me a second. Hold on. Hold on. All right, fair enough. Did we do it? I think what's going on with the folks in TikTok. What's going on? There we go. All right. All right, we live. We live on YouTube. We're live at tribebynora.com, right? So tribe members who are currently in the 12-week mentorship, you got access to actually watch this stream live on the site and comment and all that good stuff, right? So we got that as well. What's going on? What does TikTok keep doing? Talking about couldn't connect. I don't know. Okay. I got connectivity issues. Am I breaking up? I see my bars is a little low. But hopefully, yeah, okay, it's coming back. All right, fair enough. So let's get to it, right? So the story, right? At least how the story plays out for men. Let's say you take like a man, he's been active in his teenage years, his 20s, playing basketball, football, or soccer, or whatever kind of sport. You know, played sports in college, maybe football, competitive basketball, something like that, right? And that was like through the 20s. And then like mid 20s, 27, things start to go off the rails a little bit, right? There's a few things that happen. So example number one is you get an injury. Usually the injury is like to the shoulder or the knee or something like that, right? And once you get that injury, it is then prone to re-injury. So a lot of the times when you get like a shoulder injury or you get a knee injury, you know, from doing legs hard or doing a lot of upper body stuff, and let's say your chest is tight and you have some muscle imbalances going on, so you keep injuring the shoulder. A lot of the times it's a shoulder impingement or a rotator cuff tear or something like this, right? And so then what happens is you have to scale back on the training. You focus more so on losing weight, that kind of thing. But while you're going through all of that, you're also getting deeper into your career, right? You're getting deeper into your career. Maybe you start a new job when you graduate college, right? So you get out at like, let's say 24, 25, 6, 27, something like this, right? And you're just really overloaded with work. Fairly steep learning curve with work, right? and life just really takes off, right? You got all of these bills and taxes, and then you want to acquire a house or something like that. And then maybe let's say you get married. Typically, you get married around like 30, 31 or something like this. So you take on more and more and more responsibilities, right? And as you take on more responsibilities, your personal health gets kind of pushed to the side, right? Because you combat with a variety of different things: kids, marriage, work, school, injuries, things like this. And that creeps up on you through like your mid 20s. And then you hit 30 and you kind of start seeing signs of it. You start seeing the cracks at 30, right? So then you get on a diet or something like that. A lot of times, what people do is they go, well, I want to drop some body fat, so let me cut carbs. I'm going to scale back on the carbohydrates and clean up my diet. I'm going to do a keto approach or something like that. And so you do like a keto approach or something like that. You cut back carbohydrates and you lose some weight. You lose maybe 5, 10, 15 pounds, something like this, right? But then you lose the weight and you get comfortable. You get to a comfortable weight, you get some weight off, right? And you get complacent. So the health journey kind of gets pushed to the side. You fall off the diet a little bit and you just start eating normally again. And then the weight starts to creep back on, right? And the weight creeps back on really quickly, especially after doing like a keto diet. You cut all your carbohydrates, because once you start introducing the carbs back in, well, you've previously, in order to lose the weight, you've eaten yourself deeper into insulin resistance. So when you start introducing the carbohydrates back in, you're now introducing them in with even more insulin resistance than previously, right? Because let's say if you lost 5 pounds, 10, 15 pounds, like a good, at least 60% of it is like water weight, if not like a full 80. Depends on how overweight you were, right? But even if it's just like 40% of it is water weight or whatever the case is, right? It varies from person to person, right? But when you do like a dietary approach like that, you get weight loss results really quick on the front end. And then it stalls out on the back end. It's typically what happens, right? Um, and usually what people do is they get the gains in the front end and they're all motivated, working out consistently, doing the cardio every day, the resistance training, all of that type of stuff. Full steam ahead, you're getting all the results up front. And then things start to grind out and they grind you out. And the progress really starts to slow down and then stall out. And then your relationship with fitness gets more abusive. So you start doing more work, more workouts. You start cutting your carbohydrates even more, grinding yourself out in order to get over that hurdle, right? To get to break that plateau, right? And that's how you end up losing the 10 to 15 pounds, the 20 pounds, something like this. But it doesn't last very long, right? So let's say you did that at 30 or you did it at 31 or 32, but the weight comes back on and then you're going to give it another go. But when you give it another go, you're like 35, 36 years old, maybe even 37. So you give it another shot and you try to do the same thing that you did last time. You're like, well, I remember when I did it the first time, it really worked. So let's just go back and do it again, right? So then round number 2, but the thing is round number 2 never really is that as effective as the first time you did it. I'm going to go back to this because it's very important to keep that in mind. The second time you do it, it's not as effective as the first time you did it. So instead of losing the 15, 20 pounds or whatever the case is, maybe you just lose 4 pounds or 5 pounds or something like this. Maybe 6 pounds, right? Maybe you don't lose any weight, but you don't stick with it as long, all right? But then also once you start doing that, you start contending with old nagging injuries, the lower back, the knee, maybe something from a sprained ankle, the shoulder starts acting up again. You start feeling these old little things that used to happen to you from an earlier injury and things like that, right? Maybe you start having some other issues. You start having like, let's say, and this is for men, but also I'm gonna get around to women. You start having like erectile dysfunction or a loss of libido, tired, brain fog. Things are not really quite right, right? When you lose weight, you're mostly kind of losing it in the arms and legs. You're not really losing it around the torso like you feel you should. So you're trying to keep the size on the arms and the legs and just lose the weight around the waist, but it's not, it's such a grind. You don't ever remember it being this difficult. So you chalk it up to age, right? But the bills are still due. The taxes are still due. Your kids, if you have kids, they're running around. You got to be a dad, whatever the case is, husband. So basically, your life is owned by your family and your occupation, your career. So now we get into, next thing you know, you're 40 years old, 41, 42, right? And the older you get, the more your health kind of takes a back seat. And then something happens. You get a diagnosis sometimes, right? Maybe it's ED, maybe it's high blood pressure, maybe it's high cholesterol, maybe it's pre-diabetes, something like that. And that acts as a wake-up call. You get that wake-up call, you're like 45 years old, and you're like, man, I'm older. I tried to do it the second. It never quite sticks. The results are never really permanent. So where do I go from here? That's what I'm going to talk about today. Now that's the story a lot of times for men, but what about women? What you said, is this really live? Yeah, I'm live. Yeah, I'm live. Yeah, yeah. Let's see how the folks is doing over here on TikTok. What's going on, y'all? TikTok family. How's everybody doing? All right. Let's get to how the story shakes out for women, because for women the story's a bit different. The story may not be that different for women, but it is a little bit. There are some nuances to it because the hormonal profiles and certain issues that women deal with in relation to that are different. Women have this built-in superpower. It's estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen and progesterone allow you to do really phenomenal things. Estrogen helps you actually to build muscle and recover faster. Estrogen allows you to preserve and grow bone density more effectively. Estrogen allows you to handle stress more effectively, which leads to more recovery, right? In real terms, women's recovery compared to men is about 20% greater. And when it comes to something like visceral fat, for example, even though women have 10% more fat than men on average, women have 10% less visceral fat than men. Okay? So the estrogen preserves youth, it preserves your waistline, it allows you to recover and handle stress better, and all of this type of stuff, right? So the things that absolutely crush men, women handle it a lot better. Right? As a woman, you're kind of aware of this to one degree or another. So you push it hard. As a woman, you can abuse the fact that you can handle a ton of stress. Right? So if you're a woman who's ambitious and you want things in life and you got a whole bunch of responsibilities, you'll grind out for it. The biggest way that women do this is cardio. Women have tons of stamina, right? So when it comes to like running mile after mile after mile on a treadmill, running, bike riding, all the cardio, the swimming, women can do this all day long. They can handle a tremendous amount, right? Women can just go, go, go and recover much quicker. So you can do it more frequently. However, this comes at a cost. So you have estrogen and progesterone, right? And they're kind of tethered to each other. There's a variety of scenarios too for women. So I'm going to go through a few of them, the most common ones. You're a hardworking woman. Let's say even you have kids. Now you have to work even harder because you gotta make money, you gotta pay bills, and all this type of stuff, right? And you have to be attentive to your kids, and maybe you're even taking care of a parent. So you gotta really leverage your estrogen to be able to handle the stress, right? So you don't get to sleep a full 8 hours a night. Maybe it's just 6, maybe it's just 4. And so you run it and you run it, right? The more you push yourself, your estrogen will raise to compensate, but progesterone will decline as you push it. And the harder you push it, the more your progesterone declines. If you crush your progesterone levels enough, your estrogen will be super high, which makes it harder to drop the body fat. The progesterone declines, and you start losing your menstrual cycle. You start having hormonal issues. You start having like this adrenal burnout and all this type of stuff. Then you start having thyroid issues, and things get a little wonky. And if that happens, you get insulin resistant, you get fatigued, depressed, loaded with anxiety, menstrual issues, debilitating menstrual cycle. Either it's too short or it's late type of thing. Some wackiness with that, right? You can even get like excess bleeding, like a really heavy cycle and this type of thing, right? And as you go through that stress, and as you go through the heavy menstrual cycles and all of that type of stuff, you lose more iron, right? You lose more copper, you lose more zinc, you lose more blood, your hemoglobin goes down, and it can push you into a state of anemia. So a lot of women struggle with anemia, right? Now, if you're dealing with a lot of stress, it doesn't just affect your iron levels and all of that type of stuff, but it also affects your gut. So you destabilize your gut microbiome, right? And this can diminish your good gut bacteria, which diminishes vitamin K2 production in your gut. So you end up having lower levels of vitamin K2, which causes you to bleed more for longer, and that contributes to you losing more iron. Following from the gut health damage, you can erode your gut lining depending on how poor your diet is. And you can erode your gut lining to the point where you can develop leaky gut to one degree or another. Gas, bloating, constipation, eating just feels uncomfortable, right? You're used to being bloated and all of this type of stuff. It's just really uncomfortable around the stomach. And the menstrual cycle makes it even worse, right? And this can even crush your appetite, especially when you're trying to lose weight. So what happens is you get this weird thing where you barely eat, but like losing weight is so difficult. You're like, I barely eat. How is it so hard to lose weight? And it's that leaky gut issue, right? Leaky gut is basically where you have a permeable gut. Your gut does a poor job in regulating what passes through your digestive tract and into your bloodstream. Right? So you got your actual intestinal layer, you got your microvilli, and then you have your gut mucosa, your mucus lining in your gut, and then you have your intestinal endothelium, which is like this layer that's like one cell thick, right? And it lines the vascular system of your intestines. And these things are supposed to work together to regulate what passes through your gut and into your bloodstream. If you have these leaky gut issues, then things just dump into your bloodstream unregulated. One example could be glucose, where you can eat some carbohydrates, and that glucose just dumps straight into your bloodstream way too quick, skyrockets your blood sugar. And it can become inflammatory, cause you to gain weight and all types of wacky stuff, right? You can get frequent infections, right? Because pathogens are making their way through your gut and into your bloodstream, right? Mycotoxins like fungus, bacteria, viruses, they can just dump straight into your bloodstream, right? And if you're dealing with digestive issues and a backed up colon, you can have bad bacteria in your colon ejecting toxins up into your body. This can get into your bloodstream, it can get into your uterus and cause real problems. Okay? This can contribute to endometriosis, fibroids, PCOS, all types of stuff, right? And as your gut becomes compromised, you run into these one of two states with your thyroid. Either your thyroid will be hyper, or you have a hyperthyroid or a hypothyroid. Hyperthyroid is where your thyroid is just overactive because your adrenal glands are just overactive, right? Your adrenal glands are hard, right? So then what happens is your adrenal glands fire up and they kick on your kidneys. So your kidneys are like overactive. So you're just expelling protein and glucose and all of this type on all of these important vital nutrients out in your urine way too frequently. So you're not retaining your electrolytes, you're not retaining your minerals and all of this type of stuff. And that can even make the anemia even worse. That's why like hyperthyroidism, you can be like lethargic and fatigued all the time and struggle to gain weight. And be like anxious, heart palpitations, panic attacks, difficulty sleeping because your hyperthyroid is just going, right? Your adrenal glands are just going. And it's this destabilizing thing. Then there is, from what it looks like in my experience, women are a bit more prone to vitamin D deficiency. So you have a vitamin D deficiency that impacts your adrenal glands, your thyroid even more, right? And then we got things like hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism is where your thyroid is underactive. It's doing a poor job of converting your food into energy. Right? And usually people who have a hypothyroid, they have a congested liver and their adrenal function is turned down. So their kidney function is also reduced as a result. So they're not releasing toxins as effectively. So there's this chronic inflammation and you're fatigued and all this type of stuff. The interesting thing with like a hypothyroid is like you feel your best when you're not eating, when you're fasting. That's when you feel your best. When you start eating, that's when it's like, ugh, it's a slog. Right? But anyways, you deal with these nuances, the gut health issues, the hormonal issues with the thyroid, the adrenal glands, and then, you know, if you've been on like birth control, right? You're suppressing your progesterone with the birth controls, and you create a hormonal imbalance there, right? And all of these things combined, they can push you into menopause way earlier than you're supposed to. And this is happening to a lot of women. I have a lot of women come to me. They'll be like 30 years old and 35 years old and like premenopausal, they're like premenopausal, right? So all this stuff can creep up on you. You don't really know what's happening. All you know is, you know, food, you have this strained relationship with food. Losing weight is really difficult. You know, you can lose weight in like your arms and legs, but you retain all of this weight in your midsection. Or you could just be like, you struggle to gain weight. You can be too skinny, right? And when you're too skinny, that's an overactive adrenal, there's overactive adrenals, leaky gut, things like this. That with time gets worse. Now, what I'm talking about is the things that physiologically age you. People go through these struggles throughout their life, and then they're like, well, the reason why I'm struggling with all of these issues, I mean, I'm just getting older. And that just happens when you get older. Oh. It's lifestyle combined with diet choices and what your training looks like, right? How, you know, what is your relationship with food? What is your relationship with your job, your family? What is your relationship with rest, right? What is your relationship with exercise? Ultimately, the things that age you are when you're in abusive relationships. It's really what it comes down to. When you're in an abusive relationship, just one abusive relationship would tear your life up. If you're in multiple abusive relationship with your job, abusive relationship with your diet, abusive relationship with body image issues, and all of this type of stuff, it's just a lifetime of abuse, decades of abuse. What I'm saying is basically this has nothing to do with your chronological age. It has everything to do with behavior and just being in one too many abusive relationships and not having anything to act as a counterbalance or a sufficient counterbalance. So then now you're 40 or you're getting into your 40s or you know, you're deep in your 40s or your 50s, 60s, whatever the case is. So now what? Right? And like, you know, if you're mid 40s, 50s, you've probably been through a divorce, you've had multiple kids, you're just racking up hits. So what do? There's not a diet plan alone in a vacuum that's going to work to fix this, right? You have to understand the problem holistically. Right? You have to sort out, okay, I need to have an accurate assessment of the quality of my relationships. And what I need to do is eliminate abusive relationships and replace them with nurturing, healthy relationships. All right? And tonight I'm going to be talking about different ways to do that. So that's really what I want to make tonight about. A lot of people watch me, like you guys watch me, listen to me, to learn about diet stuff, right? So let's talk about diet. One of the worst things to do with your diet that is abusive is under eating, starving yourself. That's abusive. Usually when people are trying to lose weight, drop body fat, and get in shape, what they do is they eat like these minimal amounts to try to lose weight. That's abusive. It's like sending your kid to bed hungry as a punishment. Right? Calorie cutting is a form of deprivation. That's what it is. Drinking all your meals and barely eating is dietary self-imposed deprivation. Okay? It is an abuse tactic. You wouldn't do it to, like, imagine you had a chubby kid and you were like, you're only eating once a day. And you're like, well, I love my child. And they eat too much. They snack too much. So I'm not feeding them anymore. That's abusive. And you may have a good intention with it, but it's abusive. Now imagine you have a kid. You have multiple kids. Let's say you have 4 kids. 3 of them are at a healthy weight. 1 of them is not. So you withhold food from the chubby kid, and then you feed all the other kids as normal. How does that affect the chubby kid? I'm telling you right now, that's a trauma that will follow them for the rest of their lives. That chubby kid, it could have been you. And you can have like resentment towards your parents over this. Like, yo, they starved me and made me hella, like, they gave me body image problems, right? And you can internalize that and then impose that on yourself as an adult. So there's an alternative. Rather than doing this self-imposed starvation, you could actually eat more. But when you eat more, you just prioritize eating more better foods. So an example would be, what are foods that can reduce the amount of stress in my life? What are therapeutic foods? I want to eat more of those therapeutic foods, right? Foods that are rich in tryptophan, foods that are rich in water, foods that are rich in glucose, which is your brain's primary form of energy. Foods that are rich in copper, magnesium, manganese, potassium, phosphorus, right? Foods that are rich in antioxidants. So like a few of those foods would be things like, you know, it's not really in season anymore, but watermelon, mangoes, cantaloupe, honeydew, grapefruit, tangerines, kiwis, grapes, apples, peaches, pears, right? Bananas, avocado, pumpkin seed kernels, sunflower seed kernels, hemp seeds, red lentils, chickpeas, tender leafy greens, chard, arugula, kale, red butter lettuce, right? These different types of things. Cashews, almonds, pistachios, right? Herbal teas, basil tea, cinnamon tea, ginger tea, nettle tea, right? Eating a warm, satiating, savory stew, red lentils and mushrooms and hemp seeds and onions and bell pepper, right? Seasoned with garlic, black pepper, onion, a little bit of brown sugar, thyme, or parsley. Basically, nurturing foods loaded with all type of antioxidants, carotenoids, polyphenols, tannins, this type of thing. And all the foods that I just named, these foods are they create an environment inside your body that help to nurture and nourish your cells and protect your cells from hostility. If you need to eat less, have a fasting day. Right? Fasting is not abusive. Because fasting is not a form of dietary deprivation. Right? It's not a thing you're just doing every day where you're just rationing yourself out food, right, to an unhealthy degree. Fasting is a bit different because it has a different it's a fundamentally different thing because of the hormonal implications of it. Fasting is actually beneficial and nurturing because it allows you to give a break to your gut. Your gut gets to rest and take a break from digestion. Food deprivation doesn't do that because you can still eat 3 or 4 meals a day. The meals are just smaller. Your gut's not getting a break from digestion. It's still doing the digestion. It's just less. Right? It's kind of like, look, you can work 4 days a week, 8 hours a day, or you can work 7 days a week, 5 hours a day. I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to go to work every day. I kind of do, but if I'm if I'm having a job, right? I don't want to go to my job every day. I'd rather have days off. Right? I'd rather work 4 days and just be off work for 3 days. Right? So your gut can shut off digestion. And when your gut shuts off digestion, it's a hormonal shift that happens and your body prioritizes cleansing and clearing and breaking down clutter and gunk and toxins and removing it from your body. Right? Fasting is a great way to decongest your body. I wouldn't recommend it for every single person. Like if you have a hyperthyroidism where your adrenal gland is already really overactive, I wouldn't recommend fasting for that because you just make it worse, right? But having a more nurturing diet and eating in abundance is something that I would recommend for somebody with a hyperthyroid issue. Speaking of a hyperthyroid issue, right? We got to talk about bedtime and priming yourself for rest. You have a relationship with rest and recovery, right? There's a relationship that you have with that, whether you want to or not. We all have we all necessarily have to have a relationship with food. We all necessarily have to have a relationship with rest, relaxation, recovery, being in a state of being rather than doing, right? We have to stop. The question is, how good are you at stopping? You got to stop. Whatever you're doing, put it down and walk away and do nothing. If you want to get to bed at 9 o'clock, when do you start ramping down before it's time to go to bed? Are you doing all kind of stuff, lights blasting in your face, noise everywhere, doing all types of stuff, right? And you're just at 8:45, 8:50, and you're like, 10 minutes to bedtime. Ooh, I can't go to sleep. You got to ease in, right? You got to land the plane. And if you've ever been on a plane before, I'm gonna tell you right now that you want a slow, smooth, steady landing. Because what you don't want to be on a plane and feel this here, bam, bam, right? You know what I'm talking about? You ever been on a plane and you know, like the pilot, it's like they bringing it in a little too steep, and they flying, and then you just feel this drop, bam. You're like, oh hell no, what? You know, ease it in a little bit, notch it down gradually, slowly, step it down a little bit more. You know what I'm talking about? You feel that pit in your stomach, bam, that drop. I'm like, damn, I don't like that. Right? You feel the wheels hit the runway. It's just chaotic, right? That thought crosses in your mind like, oh, I don't know. You about to lose a wheel or something, right? One of the wings is going to scrape the runway or something like that. Hey, what the hell is going on here? It's like that in your life, right? You gotta ease in to bedtime. You gotta prime yourself for it. Give yourself like an hour and a half before bedtime to really ramp it down. I'm not saying that because like, oh, I'm 100% just on point with doing this, because I'm not. Right? This is a thing that I need to work on too. I'm not terrible at it. I'm not great either. Right? But speaking from what works, right? This has nothing to do with me. I haven't even, for me personally, I haven't reached 40 years old yet. Right? I'm 2 years away. Interestingly enough, for me, I've been able to age physiologically in reverse. I'm getting younger as time goes on. I'm getting younger, I'm getting mentally sharper, I'm having way more energy and way more motivation than I did when I was younger. And I know how to replicate that in other people. And I've been able to replicate that in other people. They just have to sustain the effort and the discipline long enough to get to where they want to be. And I'm going to talk about the timeline for that in a second. So you got your relationship with rest, right? How can you get out of an abusive relationship with rest and relaxation where you're beating yourself up, you're barely getting any sleep because you're mismanaging your time, you're staying up to all kind of hours of the night, you're getting up way too early, right? You're not taking time out for yourself, you're running yourself down. A lot of parents do this, especially moms. And you run yourself down and you have all type of hormonal instabilities. So there's some practices that you could do. I'm a really big fan of daily mobility. Every morning you get up, and I'm not 100% with this either because I take for granted that my mobility is pretty good. When you get up first thing in the morning, one of the best things that you could do when you get up first thing in the morning is get into your body. Because you wake up in your head. You have to transition out of your head and into your body. Right? And so you can take like a series of mobility exercises. Open up the shoulder girdle, right? The hips. Rotate and pivot and flex and extend at the spine. Right? Rotate your ankles and all of that. Right? Stretch those hamstrings out, calves and everything. Inner thighs. Lats, pec muscles, stretch out your neck, all of this. Get mobile. Move everything around, right? Get some proverbial DW40, right? Is it DW40 or WD40? I forgot. I forgot what it is. What's this called? You gotta lube up. You gotta lube it up. So getting into your body, right? That's why people love yoga classes. It's kind of like that. You get a mat you really like, take your shoes off, right? You burn some incense, or you turn on an essential oil diffuser, get some good scents in, you know? Put some meditation music on, or whatever the case is, and make it a vibe. This helps with recovery, rest. Believe it, this is active rest. Not all rest means you got to go to sleep and pass out. That's not what all rest means. Some rest you do in the middle of the day, early in the day, right? But this is more of like a recovery. You give your mind a rest by getting into your body. If you're doing like a very engaging, like when you're doing a very engaging workout, like you're exercising, you can't be in your head and be working out at the same time. You have to get out of your head and into your body in order to work out, right? Because you can't be going over all of this stuff in your head, right? You know, Jill is an asshole. She said this thing to me last week I don't like. I'm gonna have to see her again today. We're gonna get into fisticuffs at the job. I'm gonna get fired. Derek smells weird and he close talks me. Why does he need to get so close to me when he talks to me? Why is he gotta get in my face like that? I feel like everybody's encroaching on my space, right? Whatever the case. Sometimes you have, you know, right? And that irritability is like you're not resting and recovering, so your bandwidth to deal with people is an irritant, right? But when you're working out, and if your name is Derek, I'm not saying anything about you personally, and if your name is Jill, I ain't saying anything about you personally. I'm just using, these names came to my mind for some reason. Right? I gotta use the name Gerald for something else. I don't know who, Gerald, I don't know what he did, but he did something that's irritating. Gerald be snitching, telling your business or something. Gerald did something. Big shout out to Gerald. All right, so getting out of your head and getting into your body, and you're having a workout, you have to be in your body and focus on what you're doing, so you can't be off somewhere else thinking about all kind of other stuff. So you can't be thinking about all type of stuff in the past. You can't be thinking about all type of stuff in the future. You have to be present. Right? So you're doing exercise, back straight, chest out, shoulders down, right? You're feeling the movement, right? There's all of this coordination that you got to do with a variety of different movements, that type of thing. While you're doing all of that, checking in with yourself on your body, rep tempo, 3 seconds down, explosive 1 second at the top, pause, hold, squeeze. You can't be doing all of this other stuff in your head. So when you get out of your head and you get in your body, you give your mind a rest. This is also why it's a good idea too, because you can also have a toxic relationship with social media, and that eats into your ability to rest and recover. Right? One of the best things I ever did was become how conscious and aware of how much I argue with people on the internet. Okay? Because people go on my comments and they say wild stuff and lie, and I'll entertain it. I'll ask questions and probe them and all of this type of stuff, and they say all kind of stuff, and I point out how they're lying or whatever, saying is not true. Because I like debating. I'm one of these debate perverts, right? I'll go back and forth with you. I'm not like that so much anymore. I've kind of reined it in, but when I was a little younger, it was thrilling to me, but it's a little over the top. For me, I enjoy that, but you may not. It may get you flustered, right? You may engage with this one person, and you just like, man, just the problem with people these days, right? You do this whole thing. You can fly off the rails. You get into an argument with somebody on the internet and then you tell everybody about it. You know what they said? Right? And you do all this type of stuff. I know because I did that. And I became aware of it. I'm like, you're being that's a little too much. Yeah, scale it back, right? This isn't really so much of a thing I do anymore. I'm kind of reined it in, right? That's what I'm saying. I share with y'all. I'm not perfect at all. I'm speaking from experience. These are things to look out for because you can get sucked in, especially when you're passionate about something, right? But that can eat into the restfulness, right? Your peace. Okay, you got to protect your peace. Breathing. How are you breathing? You breathe deep into your belly, slow and controlled, deep, relaxing breaths. Or are you chest and neck breathing? So, like it's like a shallow kind of panicked breath. You're breathing all up in your chest and your neck, you're all nasally and everything. They need to work on that. Slow it down, breathe a little deeper. A great example of this too is if you go jogging or go for a run, what's the pace of your breathing? One of the things that I like about going jogging is it's an opportunity for me to focus on my breathing and really slow it down. So I can be going jogging and I go breathe in, out, in, out, in, and I can slow it down and I can get a rhythm. Or I can be running, my steps can be boom, 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 boom. Right, and I can, and so I don't have to be, I don't have to be doing all of that, right? In my chest, that's too much. Right, slow it down. Breathe in deep, let it sink in, slow it down. It's one of the best things that you can do. And it creates this self-awareness because it's the thing you have to do deliberately and it has to be a sustained effort. And that helps with restfulness. You don't even have to go running to do it. You can just be sitting here and doing it too. Focus on your breathing. And when you do that, you check in on yourself. You become more aware of your breathing, right? And, not only do you have to worry about, well, not worry, but not only is it a good idea to focus on the rate of your breathing, how fast or slow, but also, are you breathing into your nose? Right? Because all that mouth breathing stuff, that's not good. Close your mouth and inhale. For some of us, it's a little harder, right? And there's ways to sort that out. But it's a good thing to work on and practice breathing through your nose. And that ties into your relationship with just breathing. And your breathing will determine how well you rest and recover. Okay? Like the basis of anxiety is like oxygen deprivation. Right? Like oxygen deprivation is like at the root of like all chronic illnesses. Right? It's like you look at dehydration and it's like, oh, well, why is dehydration a problem? Well, because if you're dehydrated, that inhibits oxygen absorption and oxygen uptake into your bloodstream. Oh, okay. So oxygen. If you're struggling to drop body fat, well, how do you optimize body fat? Increasing oxygen uptake. Oh, okay. Why are you experiencing all of this inflammation? It's like, well, your cells are dying off if they're not getting enough oxygen, right? So your cells just start eroding and dying off because they're not able to sustain the respiration process because it's not enough oxygen to sustain that aerobic activity inside your cells, right? So the inflammation goes up. Oxygen absorption, oxygen uptake. Your body's overly acidic, right? Kidney disease, etc. Increase oxygen uptake, right? Erectile dysfunction, low libido, vaginal dryness, right? Oxygen deprivation. So you're breathing, right? It's a good thing to check in on your breathing and get into your body. How you start your day will greatly influence how you end your day. So with the focusing on the breathing and getting up and daily mobility and getting into your body and all of that type of stuff, these are things that you can do that will greatly influence a positive outcome in the end of your day when you wrap up and you get to bed. Right? Still on the relationship then. So we got relationship with food, we got relationship with rest and recovery, and then we got what? Relationship with work. Because we all gotta work, we all got bills to pay, we got money to make, all this type of stuff, right? There's the relationship that you have with the work itself, and there's the relationship that you have with the people at work. It's a bit complicated. Your relationship with the people at work kind of hinges on setting and maintaining healthy boundaries with people. Right? One of the things that we really struggle with at work is the weirdness or the difficulty with telling people no. No, stop, don't do that. Because people don't like being told no. And you can be a people pleaser, which makes it hard for you to tell people no. So you just suck up and tolerate a lot of stuff that you may not necessarily want to suck up and tolerate. All of this that I'm talking about relates to getting in shape in your 40s. All of it does. So people may be like, well, what's that have to do with getting in shape in your 40s? It's like that attention span thing, right? That people run into, right? Just pay attention, because all of this matters. I don't do the simple cookie cutter answers. I don't, because life is not that simple. So because I'm telling you right now, if you don't fix your relationship with your breathing, rest, recovery, your diet, interpersonal relationship, you ain't getting in shape because you got too much chaos. You cannot get in shape in this unhealthy life. It's going to make it nearly impossible. It doesn't work that way. Okay. So defining boundaries, and that's like a whole nother conversation, right? Because for me, I went through a period in my life where I would practice saying no to people, but like no very affirmatively, like a concrete no, 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 like a kind of not no, 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 right? Like a solid no. There's that, and then there's kind of like you have a list of people who like are on a priority list, and then you have a list of people where it's just like they're gonna have to jump through some hurdles. They won't ask me for anything. They're gonna have to make a payment, right? So there's like a priority list. Some people, they're like your riders. You don't really tell those people no, because those are your riders. They respect your boundaries, right? They respect your time, and they always try to make your life easier. They're always looking out for you. Those are your people. Those are your green list people. Those are your green lit people, right? Because they pour into you. The people who don't pour into you and they're always coming to you asking you for stuff, those are the people that get the no, so they gotta make a payment. They gotta give you something first. Right? If you want to pluck fruit from this tree, you better water it or bring some fertilizer. You better do something. Just don't come over here with your arms stretched out trying to take something. Right? Not only does this go for like your work, like at your job, but there's also like your interpersonal relationships in general. And then also not being in a fear of like, oh, well, I can't tell people no at work because I'm going to get fired. Go where you're celebrated and loved rather than just tolerated, right? Have some self-esteem about yourself, right? You can either stay stuck in a position you don't like, or you can make moves in order to get into a better position or go somewhere else. You don't like where you are, start working on and putting things in place to get to a better place. You have a lot more power and control over your life than you think you do. I'm speaking from experience. I've experienced more growth and progress in my life than most people. My story is not normal. I do not have an orthodox story. And the key to that was being willing to take risks, set hard boundaries, and make sacrifices. I had to let go of a lot of things. I had to take a lot of hits and do it with my chest out with no stalling or hesitation. Just head first into it. We're doing it. No other. There is no plan B. And it's terrifying to most people. And it's terrifying to me, right? But it's a certain personality, right? Not to toot my own horn, but just saying, I'm not just talking out of my ass here about that. You have a lot more. You have a lot more control over your life than you think you do. Okay. Whatever control you think you have over your life now, you have more than that. I guess that's how I would put it. Then we can get to the fitness aspect, right? Because now going back to the getting out of your head and getting into your body thing. What you're doing matters, and then the motivation for what you're doing. Sometimes that matters even more. For example, let's say I'm 40 years old, or I'm 45 years old, or I'm 50 years old, and I'm like, I want to work out to get six-pack abs. I want to be lean and shredded. I want to look like a 25-year-old. So I'm going to start working out. You're not going to make it. That's not a good motivation. It's not a motivation for a few reasons. Number one, what happens in your mind, you're putting in all of this work and you don't feel like you're getting there quick enough. The longer the journey goes, that eats away at the goal you set. Because you're like, do I still keep doing this? Is this even realistic? Because this is a grind. How much longer do I have to do this? That's the thought that happens in your head. If you train 5-6 days a week, you're on point with your diet and all of this type of stuff, and you're just doing that because you want six-pack abs. It takes a while to get that six-pack abs and all that type of stuff. So it don't happen quick. You can either put in a ton of upfront grueling work to get there quicker. But the question is, how likely are you going to break before you reach your goal? Most people, they break before they reach their goal, especially if they're older. If you're like 40, 45 years old, I'm telling you right now, you're not going to be able to just grind yourself out to get to your goal. It's not happening. You could have did that when you were a teenager in your 20s. You can't do it now because you've already taken so many hits already. And you have more responsibilities in your life now than you did when you were younger. It's a fundamentally different playing field. The most important asset that you have when you're older is patience. Be patient. As you get older, you have a better scope of time. If you don't have patience, you're not going to be successful at anything you do. It's not going to happen. Because you're either going to pay with blood, sweat, and tears up front with a really aggressive approach. And the harder and the more aggressive the approach is, the higher the risk of injury becomes. And the higher the risk of burnout becomes. And if you get injured or you burn yourself out before you reach your goal, guess what? You're back where you started. Or you're even worse. You're even further behind than when you started. So there has to be some risk mitigation when you're older. It's kind of like an investment portfolio. If you're young, you can take risky. You can go into like growth stocks. You can go into little tiny small cap cryptocurrencies. We're like, I'm gonna take $20,000 and I'm gonna put it on this small cap cryptocurrency, and it's gonna blow up 15x. Right? I'm gonna get $200,000 out of like a $20,000 investment or whatever the case is. Right? You could, or that $20,000 can just blow up and get cut down to like 8 grand, and you just got burnt. You would rather get burnt like that at 22 or 24 years old. You don't want to get burnt like that at 45. Right? You don't want to get rug pulled at 45. So, going back to the motivation, what's a good motivation? For me, the thing that motivates me is I do what I do because it's who I am. My motivations for the things that I do is a result of who I am as a person. It's different. I have goals, but my goals stem from who I am as a person. And who I am as a person implies my values. The six-pack abs and all of that type of stuff, it's incidental. It's a side effect of what my larger motivation is. I have an internal narrative in my head, right? And it's a long game. So for example, for me right now, I'm 38 years old. I'm in better health and way wiser than I was at 28. Right? My joints feel better. My mind is clearer. My mental health is better. I'm stronger. All types of stuff, right? I got more muscle mass on me than when I was 28. There's all these things, right? All these upgrades. And I'm 10 years older than I was. So I'm like, cool, taking that into 38. If I, and I plan on doing this, maintain my current trajectory in effort level and focus from this point till 48, which is the next 10 years, where am I going to be at that point? That's number one. Then number two, people are going to watch and they're going to see, oh, wow. I'm going to be able to point back at my old videos and then point back to current day. And you'll be able to see it's going to look crazy. You're like, oh, shit, he looks the same as he did 10 years ago. It's like he hasn't aged. Then check back in at 58. I'm not bragging, right? I'm just saying this is the long game. This is how I think about it. I'm not trying to get in shape or reach a certain point in the next few months or a year. I'm thinking 10 years out. That's the narrative that goes on in my head. That's what I wake up and look forward to, right? Now you may say, well, what if I'm 50 and 60 years old? I'm already old. You're old chronologically or physically? Because you can physiologically age in reverse. You can. If you don't believe you can, but most likely you won't do what you need to do in order to do it. It doesn't matter where you currently are, it matters the trajectory that you go in, and it's not a clean straight line every time. I've gained body fat and lost body fat and gained body fat and lost body fat. I've been broke, I've been not broke, then broke again, then not broke. Right? It's not a clean straight line. But it never is. I mean, if you look at like a stock market, you watch a chart, that thing is up, down, crashes 20%, 40, 80% up, down, all this craziness, right? But there's a trend going in a particular direction. And what you want to do is you want to zoom out and look at your trend. And your efforts should go into establishing a trend. And you stay locked in to being on the trajectory that you need to in order to maintain the trend you want. Right? So it's a good idea where you look at your values and beliefs as a person, and then you say, what is my narrative that is motivating me? So for me, if I go high raw vegan, where like I have a fruit-based diet, I eat like one cooked meal a day, if that. What what this meal? Okay. Let's move that. Oh, this is a. I gotta do this little picture thing on. Did I get it? There we go. All right, we back. But I'm gonna answer y'all questions and whatnot in the comments too. But yeah, I gotta get my. I bring it to a close, right? And the reason why I'm talking about this is because people are like, what exercises should I do? How many times a week should I train? And all this type of stuff. It's like, first of all, back up a second, because you have to assess your relationships. And you have to assess what your motivations are. If you're like, man, I've been big old my whole entire life. I want to lose weight. Have you lost weight before? Yeah, but then it came back. Okay, so you just want to lose weight against it? Well, yeah, well, I'm going to lose the weight and I want to keep it off. Okay, well, how do you keep it off? Because you kept gaining it back. So once you lose the weight, how do you keep it off? This has to be a different motivation behind that. We live in like this consumer society, so people just like, you know, it's a very short-term kind of just consumption type of mindset. It's got to be something bigger. Your weight and your progress is motivated. It's not, but it doesn't work in short-term gains. It doesn't work like that. I'll give you an example of this. For me as a person, if somebody said to me, I will pay you $30,000 right now if you eat a pork sandwich, my answer would be no every time. You'd be like, damn, that's $30,000 though, just for eating a pork sandwich? You just eat some, it's just a pork sandwich. People eat pork sandwiches all the time. I don't care, I don't eat pork. I don't care, I don't eat pork. What about Popeye's chicken? Popeye's chicken tastes real good. They pay you $30,000, you wouldn't eat Popeye's chicken? No. Think about what you could do with the $30,000. You wouldn't do it? No. Wow, that's crazy. No, it's crazy to you. You don't think like me. If you have values that are set in stone, people are not going to be able to pay you to subvert your values. And if you did accept the money and subverted your values, you're going to feel real icky about it. You're not going to feel good, right? If you're a woman and you had some dude who you found to be completely gross, and he was like, I'll pay you $30,000 if you do this weird sexual act with me, and you have strong values against that, you're like, no, I'm not taking the money. It's $30,000. You can use the extra $30,000, right? No, I'm not doing that. You have to draw the line somewhere, right? And if money can be used to chip away at your values, you're not gonna make it as a person. You're gonna lose yourself because you're for sale. And your values, that's all you have. Right? There's an ideological component to that. If you can sell off your values, if you can break your values, well, then who are you as a person? It's that. It's not about the pork, it's about my values. It doesn't matter if it's pork, chicken, whatever, it doesn't matter. So like my values is very important to me. That's all I have. I can make mistakes in my life. I can come up short in my life. But I stuck to my values. I didn't deviate from my values. And I want to be able to take that to the grave, period. Right? Anybody who knows me, they're like, yeah, that dude is, he is a rigid, ideologically grounded person. It's just certain things he's just not gonna do. Right? That's how you get to be like a high raw vegan. Right? People don't know a lot of the things that I do. Like when I say like, oh, 90% of the work that I do is free, like I mean that. And that's intentional. Right? An example was I used to do free consultation calls where people could just throw themselves on my calendar and book a call with me for free. You know what was happening? People were booking calls like crazy. And there was a ton of no-shows. And I'm like, wow, okay. So people are booking calls with me and then just not showing up because it's free. So I'm like, well, we can't have free calls anymore because basically the moral of the story is people only value things that they have to invest in it. If it's free, then they're not going to value it. Right? There's got to be some sort of barrier to entry because nothing in life is free. We don't value anything that's free. That's a way of me setting boundaries at work. Right? Just little things like that I'm always making these adjustments. So my starting position is I give a lot up front. I don't ask for anything in return. But people can get me to set new boundaries. There's a lot of what I'm talking about tonight. When it comes to your fitness journey, you train consistently and persistently because it's who you are. It's baked into your value set. You don't got to worry about not being consistent because it's baked into the cake of who you are. Like for me, I'm trained my whole entire life. I've never taken a year off training, ever. Never done it. I never just like, man, well, I fell off, I got hurt. I've gotten injuries. My injuries never kept me from training, ever. It's never happened. I've injured my shoulders, my neck, back, hips, knees, ankle, all of this. Never kept me from training. And I would make this joke about like, if I was in a wheelchair, I'd have the biggest arms ever. Just a massive upper body sitting in a chair. Because if my legs don't work, well, I got my arms. And you know what? If my arms don't work, I'll work my neck. It'd just be neck and abs, just a strong core. Just neck and abs, right? Just bands and equipment strapped to me. Working my neck and core muscles, right? This sounds ridiculous, but the point is, you do it because it's who you are, and you're taking that to the grave, right? I ate high raw vegan because of who I am, right? I went plant-based because I'm like, ooh, all that animal product stuff and animal agriculture, that's sadistic. That's demonic. I don't want to participate in that. Hard divorce from that. I like Buffalo Wild Wings. It tastes good. I like Popeyes. It tastes good and all of that. But what it takes for me to get that meal, I can't. I got to draw a line at that. I don't want to participate in that. And if I can opt out of that, I will. We can't necessarily opt out of every single unethical thing, but whatever you can opt out of, you should, if you can. Right? So people say, oh, well, you know, you have a webcam or a cell phone, and you know, that comes from exploited labor, but you still, whatever. First of all, number one, in capitalism, all labor is exploited labor. That's number one. You can't opt out of labor. All right? That's why I say, if it's practicably possible for you to opt out, you should. Because you should live in as much of a close... You should live in line with your values as much as possible. And that commitment is one of the key parts of getting in shape and staying in shape after 40. It's that. It's really that deep. If you want to know why most people are not successful with reaching their goals, it's because of that. It's not just having a right diet plan or a training plan. It's not that. You can get the perfect diet plan, you can get the perfect training plan and not get the results because here, your behavior, you didn't sustain it for long enough. And some of us, we're going to have to sustain the effort, perhaps harder than everybody we know. We're going to have to sustain it longer than everybody we know. We're all different. Depends on how many hits you've taken in your life. Some of us have drawn a short straw. Life is unfair. Right? Some of us have to outwork everybody just to get half the results. I'll be honest about that. But the truth is, you don't have a choice. You're still alive, so the work has to be done. Having said that, we come into load balancing because now with that rhetoric, that sounds like borderline David Goggins rhetoric, where it's like, yo, yeah, we gotta do hard, sack up, be a man, work, we'll grind set mindset, right? Hold on, because we go back to the patience thing. I don't have to abuse myself in my training. I don't have to do that. I don't need, all I need is a moderate effort that is very sustainable over a very long period of time. For me personally, I prioritize recovery. Recovery first. I don't train more than I need to. So if it takes one set for me to grow muscle, I'm not doing two because it only takes one. If I can get the results training 3 days a week, I'm not doing 4. Sometimes I would do 4 because I want to, because I like it, but it's not necessary. Right? That's the mindset. You don't do more than you need to. Right? So for example, 20 to 30 minutes a session, 3 to 4 days a week is enough. The only people who really require more than that are like really seasoned people, where like they're just at their genetic ceiling. If you're just trying to get in shape because you're not in shape, you're nowhere near your genetic ceiling. You got a long runway, you can run it. Right? So you don't need to just be max effort. If you're going to be max effort as a newbie, where do you go from there? But you got to be patient. That's the thing. You got to be patient and consistent. You can do like let's say on a scale of 1 to 5 intensity, 1 being the bare minimum, 5 being max effort. It is easier to train at a 5, 2 to 3 times a week for 20 to 30 minutes than it is to train at like a 3.5, 6 or 7 days a week. Because the constant training very frequently grinds you down. You're just always doing it all the time. It's like going to work 7 days a week. Even if the day is short, you're just in there all the time. You get sick of it. Oh, here we go. Get in the car, go back, and you da-da-da. It grinds you down. There's a thing. There's a concept that in my coaching calls when I talk to people about this. The concept is sensitivity and resistance. And so you have a spectrum. You have sensitivity and you have resistance, right? Sensitivity is where when you do a thing that you're sensitive to, you get a big response from it, right? And then resistance is when you do a thing, you get like very minimal or no response to it, right? Think about like caffeine. If you've been drinking coffee every morning, coffee multiple times a day, caffeine has like no response on you. And then you don't feel the effects of the caffeine at all. You don't feel the effects of the caffeine until you stop. So you could just be doing the coffee and the caffeine, just loading up on the caffeine and feel tired all the time. And then you could be like, well, you know, the caffeine is just not really doing anything for me. I don't know. And then you stop the caffeine and you crash. You're like, oh my God, I feel miserable. I'm going back to caffeine. So the resistance, there's no big payoff, but then like, you know, when you stop, it's not any better, right? And then insulin resistance, right? Insulin resistance is another thing. So insulin resistance, when you're insulin resistant, you're tired all the time. You're fatigued. You don't recover well. Blood sugar is always kind of perpetually elevated. You eat carbohydrates and like you get this massive blood sugar spike, but you don't really necessarily feel more energized, right? So your blood sugar is just up all the time, but you don't really feel real energized. If you stop eating and your blood sugar comes down, you just feel like garbage. You're like, ugh, this is terrible. Like a fast. So if you're real insulin resistant, your blood sugar's real high, and then you fast, you feel your blood sugar coming down. You're like, oh. Right? Like 20 hours into the fast, you're like, I'm lightheaded. I'm starving. This is terrible. This is abuse. So that's why you want to manage your sensitivity and resistance. Another one, dopamine sensitivity versus dopamine resistance. One of the biggest things that keep people from getting in shape is dopamine resistance. You got this big red button, you tap it all, and there's like this one button that's kind of worn out because you press it a lot. Right? So you press it, it's kind of like smashed in a little bit, so you got to press it a little harder. Right? Or like a video game controller, you have that one button, it's kind of worn down, so you got to press it a little harder. It's not really that responsive. So people be smashing down on their dopamine resistant, their dopamine button, right? It's kind of like if you have like you binge eat, right? Let's say you eat junk food, and you eat junk food, and it's kind of like, it's all right, you know. I always give the example of like, for me, I like Belgian waffles. I love Belgian waffles. I like Belgian waffles, these big old thick waffles, and it's just slathered in butter, syrup, and cream. I like a sugary, giant waffle. Maple syrup, cream, butter, all of that. Right? Love them. If I go a really long time, which I have, without eating I don't remember the last time I ate a Belgian waffle, actually. It's been a really long time. Because I don't really eat gluten. I don't do the butters and all. I don't do that. The last time, so I don't remember the last time I did. The last one I had was like a vegan one. I think it was at this restaurant called 4th and State. Or 5th and State. I gotta look up the name. Now, the last time I was like, oh man, this Belgian waffle is so good. But the second time I had it, like within that same week, it didn't hit the same. Now imagine every day you eat a Belgian waffle. It loses its novelty, and then you kind of become resistant to it. If you eat Belgian waffles every day for every meal, you're like, man, I hate Belgian waffles. I want to eat something else. I'll eat a head of broccoli, okay? I just don't want to eat this anymore. I'm tired of this. You become resistant to it. It's like depression, basically just dopamine resistance, where the thing that was stimulating for you, that really, it was pleasurable and it made you feel good, doesn't really have that effect anymore. It's not really having any kind of effect, right? But then when you stop, there's kind of like an emptiness a little bit there. It feels like a vacuum, so it's even worse. Is that. Same thing with exercise. You can train so much. You train 6 days a week. You do cardio every day, and you're working out. and it's a slog and your progress is stalled out. You're not really getting sore from workouts anymore. And you're like, well, I feel like I'm recovering fine, but I'm just kind of just like nothing's really happening. It's like it's stale. The training is not really working anymore, right? What's interesting is that with the training, if you've been training like that real frequently, like 6 days a week, like a lot of bodybuilders do, and they grind themselves out, take like a week off and then come back, you shoot right over that plateau, and things really start improving again. Like you literally have to take the days off and just stop because you have to resensitize your body to the training stimulus. Your muscles and your nervous system become resistant to the stimulation that you get during training. It's like this is a real thing. And people plateau, and you can't push it harder. I mean, you can push it harder. You're just going to increase the risk of injury, and you're going to crush your brain chemistry, where like you just fall off entirely. Your body's going to make you quit. Right? It's like torture. Everyone breaks. So if you step away, you can resensitize and then come back. So a big part of getting in shape in when you're 40 or whatever the case is you step back. You don't get resistant to the things in your life, right? Because you don't need to overindulge. That's why the fasting is good. So like if you do like alternate day fasting, like every other day, so every other, like 3 days a week, you have like, let's say Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, you have a 24-hour fast. The next full day of eating is so good because you're like, oh, I'm eating the food again, right? If you do a fast and your fast is long enough, you can smell, like, you're like, oh, I smell bananas. You can smell the bananas in the peel, right? Oh, I smell melons. It can just make a cantaloupe sitting on the windowsill or something. Like, oh, that smells so good. Like, everything smells so much better. It's crazy, right? Like regular food is like hyper palatable. You're like, oh, this cucumber tastes so good. It's just such a rich. People look at you like you're crazy. Like, this is a damn cucumber. What the hell? But when you fast, you become sensitized to food, right? You get dopamine sensitivity back. You get insulin sensitivity back. You get all your sensitivities back. And your body becomes way more responsive. Right? So if you train every 24 hours or you train every 48 hours, you get that break in between training sessions. When you go back, because especially for gym rats, the cool thing about like a gym rat, you know what I'm talking about. If you take like 2 days in a row off, you're like a dog on a tight leash. You're like, I'm ready to try. I want to do it. I can't wait. Right? It's hard to take 2 days off in a row. It's hard because you're like, man, I feel good. I feel like I'm ready to go. Let me in the game. Right? Just chomping at the bit like a psychopath. But that's the resensitivity. That vigor, that eagerness to get back to it, you want to cultivate that in your life. That's how you stay in the game. You want to cultivate that in your life. So you have all of these hedges and counterbalances to the stresses in your life that really help you to recover and resensitize to the journey. The daily mobility, the early bedtime, the alternate day fasting, the training like 3 days a week, training every 24 or every 48 hours or something like that, getting good rest and recovery, stepping back, doing something. Go for a walk in the woods. Go out, leave the house, embrace the cold, open the windows, right? Change it up, take a step back. Because that increases your emotional and mental bandwidth to be able to keep your head in the game. And then the final thing I'll say is focus on developing an appreciation for the journey. All right? Because the journey really is all we have. The journey is the most important part. If you're just focused on, oh, I hate where I am and it's so much work to get to where I got to go. If you're just focusing on those things, you're not going to make it. You're going to quit. Because you're not happy with where you are, and then you're looking at how far you got to go to get to where you want to go. It could create saltiness, and you can resent the journey because you feel like it's taking too long. I'm getting impatient. So you have to be present and foster a healthy relationship with the journey, where you enjoy the journey. You're sensitive to the journey. You're just in it, right? Accept the journey for what it is and focus on the positives and the upsides of it. As a human being, life is a lot longer than we think. Human beings have the ability to live to like 100, 110, 120 years old. So if you think like, oh, 60, I'm at the end of my life, you don't grasp the time frame of a human life and what's possible in your 60s, in your 50s, hell, in your 70s. The thing that should excite you is the what if, the opportunity. You get to see, hey, if I sustain my efforts and I constantly optimize my behavior on the journey, how much progress can I really make? How much progress am I making? It's that. You get to see what happens. Right? That's one of the most exciting things. You get to see what happens. Well, what's going to happen? You get excited about it. It's that. You can't really focus on how little time you have in your life if you have a lot of time left to go. Those two things are not compatible. You can't be like, oh, my life's almost over, and then be saying that for like 30 years. Like if you're saying it at 60 and you're going to live to like 95 or 98 years old, why are you going to spend all that time harping on the fact your life is almost over? You got all this time left. It's not a good use of your time. So it's that. Right? Having a healthy appreciation and estimation for time. Your life will be over sooner than later if you have an abusive relationship with your thoughts. Right? If you think you're running out of time, you're just hemorrhaging time, and it's a real short journey. That's the anxiety. It's going to create a lot of anxiety. You'd be ready to check out early, because either you're going to give up, you're going to quit and capitulate, and quit, or you'd be anxious all the time on the journey, and you're going to feel like you're going to rush and cram things, and that's not healthy either. That's why it's good to be present and stop focusing on, oh, I'm hemorrhaging time. Right? Don't get in your head like that. Because it's either going to go the route of anxiety or the route of depression. Right? So you kind of want to be somewhere in the middle and be present, focused, dialed in. You're going to have to watch this stream a couple times to really dial in what that means. Because like what I'm saying is this is the key stuff to understand. Really take it in. This is not, hey, do this exercise first and then this one, and use a dumbbell and then a barbell. It's not, you don't start there. That's later. Right? If you don't have much muscle mass on you, it's very easy to build muscle when you don't have that much on you. If you're out of shape, it's easier for you to build muscle because you're not at your genetic ceiling. If you take away anything from this stream, it's that. It's easier for you because you're not at your genetic ceiling. You got all this runway and all this growth that you can do because of how far you are away from the finish line. If I've reached my max genetic potential and I want to get past that, I mean, I'm going to have to do some wild stuff. Right? I'm going to have to take growth hormone, peptides, whatever the case is. I'm getting needles in my butt cheeks and all of this type of stuff just to try to, just to get a little further beyond the genetic threshold. You're a newbie, you ain't got to do all of that. Here's the final thing I'll say after this. Is the final thing, okay? Because I'm not telling you, oh, just get in the exercise and get in the gym and just do whatever. No, you have to have a plan. Because remember what I told you about your trajectory, and you want to establish a trajectory and stay on the ideal trajectory that you've set up. And a plan is necessary to do that. if you just go into the gym, you're like, oh, well, today I feel like doing some bicep curls and maybe I'll do some squats and maybe I'll do some jump rope. It has to be a targeted, deliberate approach towards a specific thing that you repeat week, every week after week after week. You took a 40-pound dumbbell, you did goblet squats this week, you got 16 reps with the 40 pounds. Next week, you go for 18 or 19. You hit 18 or 19, the next week you go for 22, 23. Right? Week after that, you go from 22, 23, and you pass 25. Boom. Go to a 45-pound dumbbell. Do it again. Right? 45-pound dumbbell, you pass 25. Go to 50. Do it again. It's that. That's a trajectory. Right? You get 1 week, you get 22 reps. The next week, you get 22 again. Stick at the weight you're at. You could be stuck at 22 for 3 weeks. Put as much effort as you need to, and then what happens is eventually you hit 23, and then 24. And finally you hit 25, and then you pass 25, and then boom, you go up to 5 pounds. That's just one example, right? That's what's going to grow you. It's that. It's that one extra rep. It's that one rep. It's that one extra rep. The one. That's the thing that really triggers that growth response. Right? And then your diet, basically your diet just like narrows in and dials in your hormones and your metabolism. Day by day by day. It's the same diet plan, it's the same food choices, and you just make these little slight alterations over time to optimize your gut, to optimize your hormones, your blood flow, all that type of stuff. You're just dialing it in week by week by week. No big, huge, crazy changes, just dial it in a little bit, right? So if meal 2 is 12 ounces of pineapple and 12 ounces of grapes, you can notch it up and you do 14 ounces of pineapple and 14 ounces of grapes. Doesn't have to be a whole lot. Or it can be 12 ounces of pineapple, 12 ounces of grapes, 6 ounces of tangerines. Not a whole lot, right? If you keep doing wild, different things all the time, your body's not going to be able to adapt. Your body adapts to the anticipation that you're going to keep doing the same thing. You keep changing, your body can't adapt. Because your body's like, I don't know what we're doing. Human adaptation requires anticipation. This is why consistency is so important. Consistently implies that you will be able to accurately predict what is going to happen at a later time in the future, because it's a consistent set of events that keep happening. Your body picks up on that. Your body's always trying to adapt in anticipation. Your body will adapt to what has happened previously and adapts to what is going to happen in the future. Because the number one priority of your body is to maintain balance. Wherever you are and wherever you're going, maintain balance. That's what your body's always trying to do. And it needs to maintain that balance, which scientifically we call homeostasis. Because that homeostasis, the better you're able to sustain homeostasis, the healthier you'll be, and the longer and healthier your life will be. I've been going on for a real long time in the stream. Going on 2 hours. I had a lot to say. It's not a simple topic, but I'm telling you right now, I said a lot of important things that needed to be said tonight. And man, my connection has been dragging in this stream. Y'all gotta let me know if I'm all laggy and stuff, because I don't know what it looks like on that end. Let's get up with y'all in these comments here. Love your channel, love all your advice. Well, I appreciate you for tuning in, absolutely. I try to come through for y'all. Real quick, I got the 12-week mentorship up. I did a little bit of restructuring. Okay, made some updates for the Tribe by Noir platform. A lot of good things going on there. I stream weekly for Tribe by Noir members. Okay, we do weekly group coaching call live streams. Okay. Um, so if just these live streams you found to be game changers for you, in that 12-week mentorship, it's even more so. So there's a variety of different levels that you can jump into the 12-week mentorship for. You can jump in and you get access to the live streams, or the High Raw Vegan Guide, the training plans, the recipes, the discussion threads, the community, all of that type of stuff. And you get weekly calls, right? So baked into the 12-week mentorship now, we've got the weekly calls. So you can set up a full hour weekly call with me every week, right? In the 12-week mentorship. The next level up is you can have a personal diet plan tailored to you specifically. Okay. And that's like, I believe that's tier 2. There's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And then tier 3 is where you get your own personal diet plan and training plan. All right. And then with the weekly calls and whatnot. You'll be able to directly message me and communicate with me directly on the platform from your diet plan or your training plan or your member dashboard and all that type of stuff. So it's optimized for direct communication. All right. And in the future, Tribe by Noir will be an app. So you get to push notifications on your phone. You'll be able to have it right on your mobile device and watch the streams right from your phone. Okay, so a lot of good stuff coming up. So just wanted to plug that right quick. Hey, I incorporated more fruit in my diet and stopped drinking coffee. It's helped me a lot. Yeah, for sure, right? Because look, I mean, you develop that caffeine resistance real quick. And you have to pay a price to come off the caffeine. And it's going to be headaches and lethargia. It's brutal. Should we eat a completely raw vegan diet, or is it enough to have a high raw food content? You could eat fully raw. I'm more so of a high raw person. I don't think a person should swear off cooked foods. Most of your food should be raw. So for example, if you eat 3 meals a day, right, you can just have like one of them has some cooked foods in it, but the other 2 are raw, right? That's generally how I do it. I have fully raw days where I don't eat any cooked food, like today. And then I have some foods where I add some cooked foods in. Right? So just to give yourself some diversity. Plus, like, look, I mean, you know, sometimes the produce, the fruit's not really that good. It's a kind of a hit or miss sometimes. Maybe you can't really find like some really good solid fruit. So you need a fallback. Right? So the fallback is, you know, let's say like quinoa or oats or lentils, you know, things like this, right? Or potatoes. You can find some good potatoes or whatever the case is. So you should have a fallback, because you don't want to just be like, oh, I couldn't get any good fruits, therefore I don't have anything to eat, right? You don't really want to be in that position. So a lot of this is going to be based on your location, right? So you have to have the agility, the lifestyle flexibility to be able to adapt, to stay on track. V. Ellis, what's going on? Good to see you in here. Wow, Coach is growing his hair. Yeah. Cool. It's been a while since in the chat didn't know the time switch. Yeah, I've been getting on at 6 o'clock because I was doing the 8 o'clock streams and had people up at like 10, 11 o'clock at night on here. It's getting crazy. All right. How much to sign up? Where to sign up? Oh, okay. Yeah. So basically, hit the link in my bio, and it shows all the like the tiers and everything. To join in on the platform, you know, you got like the least amount to, as far as like the community access and the direct messaging, is $25, and tier 3 is like $1,000, right? So that's $1,000. All right. So yeah, basically putting some skin in the game. If you want like hands-on weekly calls, your diet and your training plan and everything mapped out for you, then that tier 3 is going to be the way to go. All right, so it depends on what you feel you need. Absolutely. Folks, in the TikTok stream, double tap the screen to like the stream. Let me catch up with y'all in the gifts too, by the way. Y'all drop some gifts in the stream here. Trisha, thank you for what is that? The Happy Monday. Miss Lupuku. Oh, Lupuku. Is it Lupuku or Lupuku? Which emphasis should I be putting on each syllable? Thank you for the ice cream. And thank you for the 2 roses. The 3 roses, excuse me. Yes, yes, much appreciated. Dedicated for life. What's going on? You got to jump into the community. Appreciate you. Thank you for the heart me. Positive vibes. Thank you for the heart me. Appreciate you. Sugar B Moan. Thank you for the ice cream. Appreciate you. I don't know if I said that right. I hope I did. Jazzy, thank you for the heart me. Dedicated for life. Thank you for what is that? The 5 team bracelets. Appreciate you. Love y'all coming through gifting on the stream on TikTok, by the way. I appreciate y'all. Any recommendations for reducing puffy eyes? It depends on what the cause is. So like for example, like it can be a magnesium deficiency, which is causing you to have poor sleep quality. It could be an imbalance of electrolytes, so you can have like low potassium and high sodium, right? And so that can be causing an issue there with that. It can be withdrawal from caffeine, right? So you can be having like lethargia and whatnot, so you can be getting some inflammation that shows up in the swelling in your eyes as well. It could be a lack of vitamin A. So, I mean, it could be a variety of different things. It could be a vitamin D deficiency. So yeah, there's a variety of different things that you'd have to. So I couldn't give you one simple answer, but generally speaking, I think having a more hydrating diet, a more magnesium-rich diet would help. Also, you can have some gut health issues that can cause that as well. So yeah, a lot of different things. Some people have the puffy eyes as a result of kidney issues and high aldosterone as a result of low potassium and high sodium. So if that's the case, you don't need to cut sodium. You just need to increase your potassium intake. All right. You can hear other pages except this page. Y'all not hearing me over on TikTok? Put a 1 in the chat on TikTok if you can hear me clearly. Yeah, I hope y'all can hear me. All right. Oh, hold on. Yeah, that's right. Ontario coming with the quote. That's right. Whatever isn't growing is dying. So you need to learn how to live or die trying. True. Absolutely. Look at that. Coming through with the quote. That's right. Do you think the coffee mess up adrenal and mess with me pleasuring my partner and sleep? Yeah, so I mean, it's possible, right? So, I mean, if you're really just ramping up that adrenal output, look, it's not free, right? It's a finite resource. So you do have to back off of the caffeine and resensitize, right? And in that resensitization process, your brain chemistry normalizes, right? So you scale back on the caffeine and you have more of a magnesium-rich diet, you have more of a potassium-rich diet. And you can also add a little bit more salt to your diet, right? Sodium is also an important electrolyte, right? That gives you more energy too. So yeah, there's a variety of different things, and then getting to sleep better, right? So there's that, right? So things like that would definitely help. Let's see. Or you said come from TikTok just to like this video. I appreciate that, Anishka. Appreciate you, absolutely. That's right. I try to simulcast between both. The thing is that like I don't know. I look laggy on my end. Am I laggy to y'all? Like, am I breaking up or laggy to y'all? Because I'm running the app for TikTok and then I'm running the app where I'm streaming to my site and YouTube at the same time. So I don't know if that's like causing the lag or whatever the case is. So I mean, if it's messing up the stream and I look laggy to y'all, y'all gotta let me know. Because if that's the case, then I would need to partition it. So I would need to have separate events. So y'all gotta let me know. But all right. I've kept y'all here. I've kept y'all here for 2 hours already. So we're gonna wrap. Folks, like the stream if you like the stream. Double tap the screen to like the stream. For my folks on TikTok, appreciate y'all tuning in. For Tribe by Noir members, I will be back on for Thursday Night Live. And I'll be doing Monday Night Live every week, but I'll be doing Monday Night Live twice a month on YouTube. So it'll be every other week, but I will be doing them consistently every week on the Tribe by Noir platform. So if you dig these streams, join the community, get into the course material. I put up a lot of good information that shows you step by step exactly what to do, how to eat, how to train, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm building up the platform, making improvements, and all of that type of stuff, right? So it's getting better and better, right? So yeah, I think I've said everything I got to say tonight, and I will be back on, well, the next stream, because actually the next stream I do is actually going to be a split between TikTok and Instagram. So to be announced. So hit the link in my bio if you want to sign up, become a tribe member, book a call with me, or sign up for my newsletter to get notifications of when I'm doing live streams. All right, so you stay tapped in. And having said that, folks, appreciate everybody for tuning in. And I'm gonna say goodnight.